Your new TV show spoiler review here on Max Talks Movies. My name is Matt Stenberg. Today we're going to break down the new episode of She-Hulk, which is episode 3. I think it's called The People versus Emil Blonsky. We're going to break down this episode in spoiler fashion, give my general thoughts, then break down the whole episode, what it sets up, as we're almost at the near halfway mark of She-Hulk on Disney+. So welcome back to the channel. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe, ring the bell. I do these She-Hulk reviews every single Thursday with other TV show reviews, movie rankings, and a box office breakdown show every single Monday. So please subscribe, ring the bell, comment down below. What are your thoughts on She-Hulk so far? Are you liking the show, not liking the show? Is this your favorite, least favorite episode? Let me know in the comment section. Please like the video. Thumbs up button helps more than you think. So please just click that like button. It takes 2 seconds, please, and thank you. So She-Hulk episode 3 is coming off of what we ended on episode 2, which is that Emil Blonsky's going for parole. And we ended last week with, the reveal that the cage betting fight between Abomination and Wong in Shang-Chi is now public. So this is obviously screwing up Jen's case to get Emil out of prison. And that's what this kind of episode is kind of based upon, is Jen trying to get Emil on parole. And once again, I didn't love this episode. I had a fun time with this episode. There are some things that for me are really working, and there are some things tonally that are not. And there's also stuff that, because the show at times is a bit too fluffy and vanilla and wants to be a kind of a rushed 34 minutes, they have deep stuff in the show, but sometimes the show is just not taking the next level to explore. So it's kind of still, I don't hate the show. I don't think this is the worst Disney Plus show for me whatsoever, but I'm having an easy time watching the show. I still really enjoy Tatiana Maslany, but let's just get into my general thoughts and then we'll just break down the episode. So for me, as I said, there was some stuff that really worked this episode, and there's some stuff that I felt was like, okay. And then there's stuff that I think they just could have gone the next mile for. The thing that I really thought was probably the best thing of the entire show was the last scene of the episode, not the post-credit scene, the last scene in the actual episode, where Jen is walking down the dark alley and she gets attacked by these 4 men, and she realizes that she can turn into She-Hulk. Now, those characters are based off of the comics, which was very interesting to see them pop up. Those 4 kind of like Asgardian co-workers is what they're called in the show. And they were trying to extract Jen's blood, which did not work. But Jen then turning on the She-Hulk, saying, actually, I don't have to play the victim in this situation. I can actually get myself out of this. So she beats up the 4 of them. They walk away, and we end the episode of Jen looking at herself in the car window. I thought this was probably the best scene of the entire show so far. I thought it was really well done, because in that situation, sadly, we still live in a time when this happens, where a woman walks down the dark alley and you just don't know what's going to happen. And in this situation, you would think Jen would feel like she's on top of the world. She's finally not the woman who's the victim, who gets beat up and assaulted. She gets to she's a superhero and gets to save herself from what those 4 men were going to do. But she kind of looks herself in the mirror and says, I really am becoming a monster. And while yes, she obviously does not want to be in that situation, she does believe that she's really losing the Jen Walters identity. She worked so hard to become a lawyer. And she just wants to be Jen Walters. She just wants to be on TV. They're all calling her stuff that she didn't even name herself. And ending the episode where you feel like she should be on top, it's a fun moment with finally she gets to flip the reversal of the situation, finally gets to be on top of this situation. She instead looks herself in the mirror and says, am I really becoming a monster? I thought that was a fascinating element of the episode. And I thought it was the best thing that the show has done so far. So I loved the last scene of this episode. Now, we'll get into the rest of the episode as we'll walk through it. So there's an A storyline and there's a B storyline that even Jen breaks the fourth wall, saying when the A and B storyline coexist. let's get to the least interesting part of the whole show, which was the B storyline of this episode, which was that there's another case going on. Dennis, Bukowski, who's been like pretty much just awful to women throughout this entire show. He is in a court case because he thinks he's owed $175 from a former girlfriend who's a new Asgard shapeshifter who pretended to be Megan Thee Stallion, which we knew was going to be in the show because it leaked a couple days ago that she was in the show. Kind of stupid they did that like days before the episode came out. But and it's an old woman from Asgard, and he just feels like the believability of him dating Megan Thee Stallion, and overall, I did not care at all for the storyline. I know a lot of people are going to be interested because Megan Thee Stallion is a part of the storyline, but I just don't like Dennis whatsoever. He's become the I mean, people. I'm not crapping on this. I don't think people should be crapping on the show because of the way it portrays men. But this is a glaring example of it. Just a extreme version of what the show is trying to explore with men. He's just an awful human being, and you're just not really rooting for him. We have Pug in the show, who's from the comics, played by Josh Segarra, who takes over Jen is asked to do this case for Dennis, but Pug takes over. And this all kind of combines when they ask Jen to be a witness, which in an actual court just doesn't make a lot of sense that someone who's not just a lawyer, but works side by side with this person as a lawyer would be able to be a witness. Just doesn't really make a lot of sense. Some of the court scenes are just very just unrealistic, and not just the way that our main people are playing it, but the way that the actual judge is playing it. It's just a little bit cartoonish, and it's like the way that I guess kids maybe see courts. It's a bit off. But Dennis wins $175,000, and the whole bit is that the new Asgard woman, she like pretended to be the judge for 2 seconds, so she's going to like prison, I think, for like 60 days, and has to pay him $175,000. I just didn't care at all for the B storyline. It was just every time it was just Dennis talking or just in court, and Jen wasn't involved. The show really slowed down. Really, the first 2 episodes there was no B storyline. It was always Jen, and it felt like them getting Jen into this case felt so forced. Like they wrote these 2 different storylines for an episode, and then one of the writers felt like it was like, maybe we should have Jen pop up in this storyline, and then they just talk at a bar, and she's cool being the witness. Now, Dennis does give her the idea to have the it's not called a neck collar. I forgot what they call it. The enhancement thing that forces, like in the X-Men films, comics, that thing that's around their neck, that doesn't allow their powers to come out. That she takes that idea on to Abomination, which leads to him actually getting out of parole. But let's get to the A storyline, because I just really did not care about the B storyline. So the A storyline was Jen getting Emil his parole. So Jen then contacts Wong. We have on LinkedIn. Wong was excellent this episode. Benedict Wong is, for a reason, getting all these is involved in all these MCU projects. He's really excellent, has great comedic timing. His joke about maybe we should just erase everyone's mind as a joke to Spider-Man No Way Home, I thought that was probably one of the funniest jokes of the episode. And Jen kind of relying him to show up on time to this parole hearing, I thought was great. I thought that this is actually a much better version of Abomination this week than last week. I don't know what really changed in a week of a show. Tim Roth definitely played it more, didn't play it as cartoonish as I felt he was in episode 2. This felt like, yes, he was making jokes, but he also felt like Abomination. So I felt like it was a bit more closer to, it's not, we're far past the first Incredible Hulk with this character, but at least it's a better version of what I thought the second episode was trying to portray with him. He has all these like 7 pen pals who are vouching, they're like his significant others, and they're saying that once he gets out of parole, we'll provide all the financial stability stuff. I was like, okay, funny, interesting. Jen goes this whole parole thing. They're talking about Wong comes in, and the whole point is that Wong is saying in the court, and really to Jen too, that Wong forced Abomination of his will to come to this, to the fight in Shang-Chi, and that Wong offered Emil freedom outside, and Emil wanted to go back to prison. Now, obviously, something is going on with this. This is very much surface level for a reason, because clearly Wong didn't force Abomination to escape prison without his will and letting him just be free. It's obviously not something that the Sorcerer Supreme would do. So it's interesting. They're clearly hinting that there's something there with Wong and Abomination. Can't wait to see what that builds to, hopefully. But then Abomination, he turns into Abomination and saying that he basically could do it on command. And the editing was really bad when the scene ended. Like when he turned back to Abomination, then all of the parole people who were going like, "Oh my God, I'm so scared," were acting completely normal 2 seconds later. It's clearly completely different takes or reshoots. It just felt very off to me. But Abomination gets parole by Jen, with the help of Jen, saying that he can never turn into the Abomination. He'll have that collar, so they can locate him, and so he can never turn into the Abomination. And we're clearly we saw later in the trailer that we're going to be seeing Abomination back at his house. So hopefully we keep getting Abomination in the show. But I feel like this was a fun episode. I didn't think it was anything special. I liked the episode. And I just feel like there's some ideas out there that they're just not going too deeply on, especially with Jen going on TV, which was also Wachowski's idea. So I think Tatiana Maslany is fantastic. I just feel like at times the show is clearly thinking it's really funny, and I'm not laughing as much as I think a lot of people, even who love the show, are laughing at it. I'm not thinking this is a hilarious show. I think it's a funny enough show for me, but Tatiana Maslany keeps me going every week. So I really like this show. I don't love the show, and I wish that it has 30 minutes. You can do deep stuff in 30 minutes. I feel like the show is at times a bit too fluffy and cartoonish, blended with trying to do these very surreal, not satirical, but big topics on women and how they're seen in society. I think it's tough to blend that so well. So that's my thoughts on She-Hulk episode 3. I've already done breakdowns of the last 2 episodes. Please like, subscribe, ring the bell, and I'll be back next Thursday for another review of She-Hulk Attorney at Law.